So it's now about 10 minutes till 6. It's been cooling for a bit. You can see that there's solid forming. And it's still not at room temperature, but you can see there's a nice lot of crystals in there. So I'm going to remove the beaker at this point, since the job of cooling slowly has been done. It can cool a little faster now. And while we're waiting for that to cool the rest of the way, I'm going to prepare my 10 milliliter beaker with my label. And get one that's nice and clean. I'm going to label that up. And this is going to be 66B. Aldol condensation product. Take that label in place. And get a mask for this beaker. Finally stabilized, 8.134 grams. Got 8.134 grams on the beaker. So we'll put our solid in there, and then inside a 50 ml beaker in the desiccator. And we'll make up a little bit of a mass peck sample. You see now a lot more solid has come out as it's cooled more. A large amount. It's still a little warm to the touch, so I don't want to put that on ice yet. Get a nice clean glass stirring rod. We use that to mix it before we filter. Get rid of some of the more of this water from the ice bath so this thing doesn't fall over. Lots and lots of solid. It looks like good quality solid. We will have 2 boiling stones and a stir bar to remove from that as we transfer it to the beaker. I'll reach in there and just give it a stir. I think that's to the point where it can safely go in the ice bath without risk of pulling out impurities. Let that sit, cool a little bit. I have a good vacuum here. That's still nice and tight. During that 10 minutes I did the dishes. I clean up a little bit, so we'll wait a little bit more while this cools. Get as good a yield as possible. And while I will put away the other stuff, and I'll probably need a nice clean micro spatula for transferring it to the beaker. So we'll get one of those out before I put the wet ones in. tweezers in case I need to use that to remove things like the stir bar. That's good enough. Give it a stir and then try to pour it through as quickly as possible so we don't lose solid around the walls. Not going to worry about the fact that the stir bar and the oiling stones are going through. Those are easy to remove later. You see the filtrate is orange, but the solid is largely white. And you see how fluffy it was. It's packing down quite nicely now. And we're just going to do a couple of washes. We've got a pipette full at a time. Try to get all the solid out of the flask. And then finally, I'm going to wash that solid. Try to get rid of any residual color and impurities. 2 or 3 washes should be sufficient. Looks like maybe it's pale yellow, but most of the color is in the filtrate. Well, you weren't looking. I filled our 66B GCMS spec file to the top line with dichloromethane, so it'd be ready. Residual 95% ethanol I don't need. This one will actually have to be washed with soap. Just letting the air go through that for a little bit to try to get some of that water to evaporate. So it's not sticky when I try to pull it out of there. I'm going to go ahead and grab the stir bar. Not too much solid sticking to that because it's Teflon. Stick that in there, not to lose it. And this boiling stone's right on top, so I'm going to go ahead and grab it out of there too. Chuck it. Got a little bit of solid on my tweezers and a little bit of solid on the bench, and that's actually plenty to make up a GCMS spec sample. So I'm going to see if I can convince that to go onto the spatula. And into the vial. A bit more here. Stick that into the vial. Doesn't take much for GCMS spec at all. take that a little bit. And got on a vortex genie to get it nice and dissolved. So there's our GC mass spec sample ready. Now we will break the vacuum. See what we can do about transferring the rest of this solid into the beaker. Somewhere in there's one more boiling stone too. I'll pull out if I notice it. So you can see what the crystals look like. Nice pale yellowy color. And now there's kind of a matte. Light, low density solid. Yeah, the boiling stone has disappeared. Don't worry about that. Probably doesn't have much mass anyway. We'll worry about it when we have nice dry solid. Let's get a mass on it now. We're looking at 8.512 grams. And with 8.512, and we'll stick that in the desiccator. Next to the other couple of products that are sitting in there. Let that dry till Monday. And I got a little bit more residue on my spatula. Might as well add that to the GC mass spec sample. Maybe get the last little scrapings off here too. Just a little bit more solid. Won't hurt to make the GC mass spec sample just that little tiny bit more concentrated. Just getting it to go into this tiny vial. That's an interesting exercise. Yeah, it's enough. So let's vortex that. You can see that as it's cooled, Filtrate looks like maybe, well, no, it's just cloudy. Thought maybe there's a little solid in there, but no. So that's 95% ethanol. Put it in the organic waste. Ethanol's already on the list, so I don't need to add it. And we'll take this over to the GC mass spec. I can put it in slot number 1. Double check and make sure the dichloromethane wash bottle still has wash in it, and it does. Getting low, but still has enough. So we can sit down here. Right now, bromination is the method that's active. And that's not the one I want. I want Aldol. So I'm going to open up the Aldol 2021 method. I'm going to go to sample login here. And this is 66B. So we'll name it sample name and the file name. And this is the product of the Aldol condensation between K2 and B1. 0.1 microliter injection should probably be enough. And it's automatically going to integrate. So we're good. You can download those parameters. And I'm not entirely certain that these parameters are adequate for all of the Aldol condensation products, so we may have to tweak the method some to get it to pick this compound up. So it'll just sit there. If you look at our method detail under GC, we can see that this is a 12-minute total run, so there's no reason to sit here. I will turn off the camera and I'll go clean up some more.